Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Parnaye Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya Gitamrita Duhe Namaha. Hare Krishna. Welcome all of you for our Bhakti Shastri Bhagavad Gita discussions. We are in the second chapter, shloka number 12. Am I right? We completed discussion on the verse number 11, I think. Yeah. So we did the discussion on the shloka number 12. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme chanadhipa nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam atah param. So Lord Krishna, who has taken the role of spiritual master, guru, immediately corrects the mentality or the thinking of Arjuna. In the very beginning, he points out the fault of not able to distinguish Gatasum and Agatasum. Gatasum means something dead. Agatasum means something which never dies. That is body and soul, matter and spirit. After pointing it out, he comes to tell that we as a being, as an entity, he has not told who we are. He is telling we as the being, I, you, and all these kings always exist across all the time phases, past, present, and future. So he is telling that we all are eternally individuals. And we discussed here the wrong philosophy, the wrong understanding of impersonalism, especially Mayavad, and how Srila Prabhupada explains the how it is wrong, and he gives the right understanding. Yes. So this wrong philosophies, Mayavad or Shunyavad, or many such like that, Karma Mimamsa, all these are not the exact understandings or explanations of the reality, especially absolute truth. But these wrong understandings are always existing in material world. It is not that it was not there during Lord Krishna's time. Otherwise, why is Lord Krishna telling it about? Is it not? We are correlating to how in Kali Yuga this philosophy was more propagated by Lord's arrangement only. There was a purpose for it. Last time we saw this. But these misunderstandings, this ajnana about the real swarupa of the soul and the Supreme Lord, the relationship between them is there in material world. Because of identifying with the material world, that misunderstanding very naturally dawns on every conditioned soul. And Lord Krishna is rectifying it in the very beginning. And now he goes on to tell in the 13th shloka who we are. We are not this body. He defines that in the shloka number 13. So he told we are eternally individuals, oh Arjuna. Oh, then Arjuna asks, he might think, oh, but the body belongs to us, is it not? So when the bodily changes happen, we also get affected. So for which Lord Krishna says in 13th number shloka, those who have Bhagavad Gita, please have it. You can recite the shloka with me. Dehi nosmin yatha dehe तथा देहांतर Any two devotees, please recite.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Read Prabhu. Yes, go ahead.
Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhirastatra na muhyati.
Any one more devotee would like to do?
Yes, can I try, Prabhuji?
Yes, go ahead.
Ehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantra praptir dhiras tatra na muhyati.
Okay, so we'll go to the translation. Who will read for? Okay, I'm not getting screen sharing permission. Prabhuji, would you like to?
Yeah, Prabhuji, 1 second. Yeah, Prabhuji. Go ahead. Prabhuji.
I'm just showing the shlokas and the translations.
No, Prabhuji, I forgot.
Who would like to do reading of translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I can do that.
Praveen Prabhu. Who is this? Prasad Prabhu.
Prasad.
Okay, yes, read translation, Prabhu.
Okay. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from the boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change.
So dehi naha. Dehi means actually one who is in the deha. One who has possessed deha is called dehi. So that's why it's called embodied. One who owns the body, embodied. One who is in the body. And deha is sharira. So yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehinaha dehantara prapti. So just like the deha undergoes kaumara, yavana, and jara. Kaumara means childhood or youth. Yavana means youth. Jara means old age. Just as deha undergoes this change, similarly the one who owns the deha, he undergoes a change at the time of death. So there is a change happening for the deha, and the dehi has to change the body itself at the time of death. So that way, Lord Krishna is telling very important line in this is the fourth one. Dhira tatra na muhyati. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So there are two changes happening. We can clearly see it. One change which is happening during the lifetime of the body. One change happens after the body gets worn out or it dies, or it gets destroyed by the time. So two changes are explained. So we understand this, that the word reincarnation, punarjanma, it is explained in an internal sense and in an external sense. The internal reincarnation means the changes of body which happen during the body's existence. Like there is Kaumara, Yavana, and Jara. So like that, the changes will also happen at the time when the body dies. The soul has to take another body. That is external reincarnation. So Lord Krishna is telling change is inevitable. Change of the body, and the change when there is body is always there. Change is the constant thing we say, is it not? So what is unchangeable? It is only Atma. So one who knows this, he is Dhira. Prabhupada explains in the purport. In fact, he goes on one step ahead. He tells one who knows the constitution of individual soul. You may refer to the purport. One who knows the perfect knowledge of constitution of individual soul, super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a Dhira, or most sober man. This word sober is used in a very, Prabhupada has used it very interestingly. Sober actually word is used for one who is not intoxicated. One who is not intoxicated is called sober. Now, what is the intoxication here, which is explained, from which sober man is not affected?
Intoxicated by materialism. Material happiness, enjoying material.
So who is attached to the
with
material? Body.
Yes, attachment to
Is
the
attached to the matter.
Yes, very good. All of you told the right thing. Attachment to this body and attachment to the things belonging to this body, aham, mama, all that, is actually an intoxication. So Lord Krishna is very clearly bringing it out. And Prabhupada says little below, let me point that out. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as fragmental portion. So Prabhupada below, he also marks, as confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of Supreme Lord are Sanatana and are called Kshara, but they have a tendency to fall into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so. And even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, that is fragmental. But once liberated, he lives in an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with personality of Godhead. So what here is told is that you may remember this shloka which comes later. Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Which chapter it comes? Any guess? In the Bhagavad Gita only it comes much later. It comes in Purushottama Yoga chapter, which is 15th chapter, very famous chapter of Gita. There also Krishna tells about the nature of soul. There he says, this soul, everyone is my amsha. He is my amsha. See, amsha here, because here it is coming as the soul is not changing. That's the main essence of this shloka. The body is changing even during the lifetime and after the life, that is at the death time also. The body is always changing. What is not changing is soul. So Krishna is telling this. Now, we also have heard that the soul or the Atma is an eternal, fragmental part and parcel. Now, we are Amsha of Lord. So when did the Jiva come out from the Lord? We cannot tell the time because it is eternal. Are you getting this point? So one side it is eternal, another side it is part and parcel of the Lord. It is coming from the Lord. So what it means to say eternal, fragmental, part and parcel means the Jiva, it has its origin from Lord, but you cannot put a time of beginning when it actually originated, because it is eternally fragmental, part and parcel. It is not like I have some atta which is made for chapati or something, and I remove it at one point of time, some 10 golas, and you see now these are fragments of this one big mass. No, it is not a material estimation of fragmenting, but it is a spiritual understanding of who is source and who is dependent on whom. In that sense, one should take. So Prabhupada explains that very nicely. And then he also says below that Paramatma, who is reflected, just like the sky, the luminous objects in the sky are reflected in water, are present in many places. Similarly, Paramatma is also present everywhere. So the essential point in this shloka, which is very important, Srila Prabhupada has quoted it so many times. Last time I was telling about how Srila Prabhupada, whenever there was any discussion about spiritual subject matter, first thing he would discuss is this, that we are not body, we are spirit, soul. From here starts all other philosophies, from on the basis of this. If someone is not accepting this, then it's very difficult to build or argue anything or present anything. Even Prabhupada also says later that even impersonalists or any other spiritual path, they also accept impermanence of body and eternality of soul. So that is something very common. So Lord Krishna is setting something very foundational here in Bhagavad Gita and also in spiritual life of every personality. That is understanding that body always changes and soul never changes. Now this has so many implications. One can derive application after application for this. So body is always changing. One should not get affected by the inevitable changes of the body. Now I was young, now I'm becoming old, I'm losing my capacity to work. What I was earlier, now what I am, I become frustrated or disappointed, and I will become much more dwindling after some time. So and the things, the people who are with, they also get separated in due course of time. So these are all the nature of material body and things related to material body. So these are going to happen. We cannot stop it. And a sober person, that's why Prabhupada makes that one dhira, he is not bewildered by such a change. In fact, Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna, hey Arjun, don't you know Yayati? Yayati, he in fact got a fresh body, young body from his son Puru. Puru, na? Puru, yeah, Puru, yeah. His son Puru, and he was happy. So similarly, Bhishma and Drona, they are also going to get a fresh body after this. They lay their lives in this battle. Whether you kill them or someone kills them, they are going to get a fresh body. Better you do your dharma of fighting. Why are you lamenting? They are going to get a fresh body. In fact, you should rejoice. You should be happy. Krishna is putting that kind of a thinking here. And then he explains about the inevitable nature of the body. Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in next life. I'll just show this. Yeah. See this. The changes of body on account for enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in next life. If not, they would have at least a life in heavenly bodies for spiritual enjoyment of material, superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. So that is very clearly in view. Arjuna is lamenting, and Krishna repeatedly says, there is no cause for lamentation. Just see this view. Just understand this point. There is no cause for lamentation. So he will repeatedly bring that point later also. So he's explaining it here like this. One of the very important shlokas, it's also there for memorization. You could mark this. So we will go ahead. I will, if you get any time, any question or a comment, you can raise hand. Otherwise, we will keep going ahead. So text number 14. After knowing that the body is changing, soul is not changing, what am I to do? Is it that then I just leave everything on its due course? I don't do anything related to body. What am I to do, O Krishna? Then Lord Krishna says what it means. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama payino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Any two devotees can recite. This is also an important shloka.
Prabhuji, can
Nirupama
I?
Mataji. Yeah, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Go ahead, Mataji.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mataji. I'll do
Yeah,
after you.
no,
sir.
Mataji, carry on, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhada agama payino nityas tam titikshasva bharata. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Another devotee was wanting to do it.
Shall I try, Prabhuji?
Yeah. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Matra sparsastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada agma paino nityas tamastiti sasva bharata.
Okay, thank you. Read the translation, Prabhu. Who is reading? Yeah.
Yeah, it's me, Prabhu.
Yes,
Okay.
Prasad.
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. They arise from the sense perception. Okay. Oh,
Science. Science it's called. Yeah.
sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
Okay. So, body is ever changing, soul doesn't change. What it implies, Lord Krishna gives a right implication. This means one should not refrain from doing one's duty. One may usually draw a conclusion that, okay, body is ever changing, soul is never changing. So this means I should not do anything related to body. But what is Lord telling? Lord is telling everyone has a duty. One should learn to tolerate the difficulties which come in the due course of duty. But one should continue doing one's duty. Prabhupada explains very wonderfully in this purport about performance of duty and tolerating the disturbances which may come in the course of executing one's duty. So here you see carefully in the shloka, matra sparsha, matra. So we have indriya, that is senses, and indriya vastu, the sense object, is in Sanskrit it's called tanmatra, matra it is called. So for eyes there is vision, drishti, rupa. For the eyes there is rupa, that is the matra. For the ears there is shabda. For the tongue there is rasa. For the skin there is sparsha. What did we leave? For the nose there is
Gandha.
Gandha. Yes, very good. Rupa, rasa, gandha, sparsha, all like this. So these are matras. So when the sense, that is the indriya, comes in touch with matra or indriya vastu, there is some experience. What happens? Shita, ushna, sukha, dukkha, these are all experienced. Whenever there is an interaction between indriyas and tanmatras. So, but these experiences, Arjuna is being told by Krishna, what is the nature of this experience? They are agama, they come at a point of time, apayinaha, they also get, they go away at a point of time, anityaha, they are temporary. Knowing this, O Bharata, that is the person in the family of Bharata, the famous Bharata. There are so many Bharatas, in three Bharatas mainly. One is the son of Rishabhadev, that is Bharata. There is Rama's brother, Lord Ramachandra's brother, he is Bharata. And there is Dushyanta and Shakuntala's son, he is Bharata. Here, what I have heard is it's referring to the Dushyanta's son Bharata, who is in the family of Pandavas. So, Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. So, you are belonging to a great dynasty of Bharata, and you are son of Kunti. Both are great. Kunti has suffered so many difficulties in her life, and she tolerated. Kunti's life is full of so much of difficulties, but she tolerated. You are son of that great lady, and Bharata was a great king. He was a very great king, very valiant, and he was very righteous, dharmic person. So you belong to a great family, both from mother and father side. So you have a great responsibility to carry on their legacy, their qualities, their reputation. Oh, Arjuna, you should learn to tolerate. This fight is going to give troubles, difficulties. Your heart is getting affected, but tolerate and go ahead. That's the main essence which Lord Krishna is telling here. Srila Prabhupada in the purport tells about 3 examples for tolerance, including Arjuna's fight. You can see that. One is taking bath in the Magha month, Magha Snana. That is in the cold season. A person who is especially a spiritual seeker never refrains to take a bath. Yeah, one has to take his bath early. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. That is with respect to cold. Then later it's told about in a hot season. It's called Vaishakha month, in the month of March, after Chaitra, after the Yugadi time. Vaishakha, it's very hot. That time, the ladies do not refrain from working in the kitchen, even in the mid of the day, because it is so hot. Still, they continue their duties. Oh, similarly, Arjuna, in your duty of fight, sometimes there could be a friend or relative, but one should not refrain from his duty of fighting. Just like a person who knows religious injunctions, he knows it's his duty to get up early, take bath. Similarly, a lady in the house, a grihini, she has to cook for her family members, offer to the deities and offer it to her family members. That's her duty, sacred duty. And similarly, your duty is to fight. You have to tolerate, like Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha has to be tolerated. And 2 names are given of Lord Krishna, Arjuna here, Kaunteya and Bharata. They have a meaning. Prabhupada gives a very nice statement at the end of this purport. See this. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. So the essential theme here is tolerate the experiences you will find in this discharge of duties. Tolerance. Titiksha. That is the main point in this shloka. If you carefully see, what is tolerance? Usually we think tolerance means you tolerate, don't react, tolerate. Sometimes tolerance is perceived as inability to respond or incapacity to respond. But essentially, tolerance means one is focused on something higher or more important than immediate response. So that is very important. Otherwise, we become distracted by experiences which are very, very, impermanent, and they obviously inevitably come. And if we get affected, then we lose sight of that higher purpose. Yeah, just like a student who is studying for his exam, he will forego his play time, his fun time for a higher purpose. Similarly, a person who is fixed on a higher purpose in spiritual life has to forego such experiences. They may come in the course of his duties, but he should not get affected from discharging his duties. That is very important point Prabhupada makes here. Yeah, one devotee had raised a hand. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes,
I had a doubt here.
yes.
So the tolerance comes when we understand we are not this body, we are the soul.
Correct.
Krishna says you have to be tolerant. But sometimes when the provoking situation comes, we tend to react. But though we know this philosophy, we hear a lot and lot, but the realization doesn't come. So how to get realized in this sense?
Very important. Nice question. Practical difficulties. Essentially, we have to develop a higher purpose in life. And we have to recommit, reinstate in that purpose periodically. Just like, I'll just give on a very valid example, which devotees may find is at the time of Diksha. We commit. We take it as our duty as a disciple to follow those instructions of chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds, following regulative principles, all this. So there is a purpose here, that is to please our Guru. At least externally, I should follow these instructions. So developing that purpose is very important. And it's not that it happened one time, so it's done. We have to keep reminding ourselves of that purpose periodically. Essentially, satsanga or association of devotees is bringing that purpose in our vision very, very clearly. That yes, this experiences in this material world are transient. They are not permanent. I should focus on spiritual goal of life. At the same time, this does not mean, as Lord Krishna is telling here, I don't discharge my duties. I should discharge my duties, tolerating the such experiences. So this has to be reminded, for which we need to come in association of devotees, and reinstating and recommitting to that higher purpose by sadhana, by sangha is very, very important. It can never be understated, or it can never be overemphasized. It's always so very important in spiritual life, actually. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
Thank
There
you.
are some of my thoughts. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Prasad Prabhu.
Yeah. So, okay, as Aditya Prabhu mentioned, okay, even though we know this knowledge, okay, practically it may not be following 100%, is because we have not believed really 100%, even though theoretically we know. Can we think of like that level of digesting in our genes is not there? Something like that also.
Yeah, that's true. So what we are right now doing is understanding of facts, at least a theoretical acceptance of it by intelligence. Yes, by intelligence. And in sadhana bhakti, intelligence has to be the driver of our life. And we have to first give it a basic information, a time to reflect on these facts, contemplate on these facts, and engage the intelligence, mind, and body in some seva, which will give a higher taste. Later it will come in the second chapter itself, how a higher taste will make a person rise above all such material attachments, because we may leave at one point of time, but again we may fall back to it. Unless there is a higher taste, it's very, very difficult. So Lord Krishna will later tell that rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. It will come in this very chapter itself. It will come. So the point is, we are trying to intellectually understand, and intelligence is, Prabhupada told, next door neighbor of soul. There is mind, there is intelligence, there is ego, which is connecting the spirit soul to this material world, and there is soul. So we should function as much as possible by intelligence in sadhana bhakti. Otherwise, mind will take us to its material experiences. So we have to function through intelligence, and slowly, mind will get soaked in spiritual aspects, spiritual experiences. Then it will start liking it. It will start naturally taking to such choices in life. It will take time. It is not something very quick. In fact, Lord Krishna will tell later, Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramatini balavan prasabham manah. Even yati means a great sannyasi is called a yati. Even such a yati could be distracted from these sensory experiences. So he has understood intellectually. Is it not vipaschita? Vipaschita means one who has understood. Is a great intellect. Is called vipaschita. So such a person also can get drawn away by material experiences. Yeah. So for which Lord Krishna later will suggest a higher taste as a solution, as we just now discussed. But at the same time, this does not mean that we don't understand things intellectually or convince our intelligence to spiritual facts. Otherwise, what is the hope for a spirit conditioned soul? These instructions of Bhagavad Gita are given by Lord so that we worship the Lord through intelligence. Reading of Shastra is worshipping the Lord through intelligence. So we should do it. We should engage our intelligence to understand these instructions. And we pray to Lord to be fixed in this knowledge and do some seva to get sakshatkara or realization of this knowledge. It takes time. It's very easily said than done. Kindly pray for me. I am also struggling. Any other points of reflection by others?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, if I
Yes,
was hearing the lecture by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu on similar, and I just, if you're okay, so I wanted to give a perspective on the aspect which Santosh Prabhu asked, that there are spikes that happen, and there are, say, we react impulsively, but there are many, or say, those spikes that happen at that point of time, we might not be able to control our mind or say behave intelligently, right? And but then when we are normal, at that point of time, if we increase our bhakti or say increase our sadhana and say chanting and really desire and pray for the aspects where it can be reduced, so slowly and steadily those spikes will come down, and you will behave intelligently in that and not impulsively, but it will take time, but that is what is there. And I just wanted to quote, I think Prabhupada said that intelligence is to kill the thought before it becomes an action.
Good, well said. Yeah. So it's very natural to drift towards sense thoughts, sense desires, but intelligence is what stops us. It tries to bring us back to sanity. So it's very important.
Because thoughts will come. I think there was some example, Prabhuji, of some Muni or some Rishi, I don't recall where he said that I get the thought of, okay, I get the thought of lusty desires and I spit on it. So like people at that level also, caliber also get that thought, but then they don't act on that manner, and that's what is the intelligence.
Very true, very well apt inputs. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So these experiences are inevitable. Such experiences of dualities, Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha. That's what this material world is giving. But Sukha, Dukkha, Da. Such is the duality giver it is. And one should tolerate. That is the essential instruction here. Tams titikshasva. Bharata. Understand your purpose, your higher purpose, and tolerate. That's the essentially this thing. Sri Krishna will now say what will be one's result what will be the result of such tolerance in the next shloka. Let's see that. Yam hina vyathayantyete purusham purusharshaba samadukha sukham dhiram somritatva kalpate. Read the translation.
Yes, Prabhu. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
Yeah. So the shloka says, O Purusharshabha, Purusharshabha, the best of men you are, Purusharshabha. Such a person, Purusham, na vyatayanti, one who is not affected, not disturbed. Vyatha means actually one who sits and grieves. Oh, such a vyatha. Boligo dukkhera vyatha. So vyatha means to get distracted from duties. Stop functioning. Stop doing the duties. So such a person who tolerates and doesn't get disturbed in discharging the duties by these experiences, such a person, what he will get? Saha amritatvaya kalpate. He is a dhira purusha, sukham, dukham, he is seeing sama. And such a person gets amritatva. Amritatva means immortality. Mrita means death. Amrita means that which doesn't die. Amritatva. He attains immortality by such tolerance. So Lord Krishna is saying this. And Srila Prabhupada compares this tolerating the difficulties which Arjuna has to do. He has to inflict some pain to his relatives in this battle, especially to the people on the other side. But it is inevitable. Just as he compares it to a person in the Vedic system taking sannyas. A person who is taking sannyas, it's a painstaking, you see this, no? It's a painstaking, what's the word used? Situation. So there is a fourth stage of life called renounced order of sannyas. It's a painstaking situation. One who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyasa order of life in spite of all difficulties. So there are difficulties in severing family relationships, but one who tolerates such thing and he takes to it, makes the path complete. And Prabhupada gives the example of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who took sannyas, and especially it was a situation of great comfort for him. He had such obedient wife Vishnupriya, such a loving mother Shachi Mata, and such wonderful family of devotees, associates, all wonderful devotees, Srivas, Advaita Acharya, many more in the Nadia. But yet he takes sannyas. For what purpose? He being Lord, there is no need to take sannyas. But he takes sannyas for a higher purpose, for preaching. So just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, and he did not get affected by such material experiences. It's not material, though, but yet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is taking sannyas to make that one point also, that one should be ready to forego such experiences for a higher purpose of spiritual realization. So Prabhupada compares that with Arjuna's fight. So Arjuna, do not get affected. This is the way of achieving liberation. One should perform his duties. That will give you immortality. So accept in that sense, just as a person takes sannyas, you should perform your duty. Like that, Arjuna is being explained. So far, what has been happening in this 11 to 15, these verses? Lord Krishna established at the very first step that we are eternal individuals. That's the first thing. Then he moved to the next step, telling the body is always changing, soul is never changing. Now, after telling these two aspects, he quickly starts telling, so what you should do, Arjun? You should tolerate whatever difficulties which will come in your duties, and continue doing duties, and you will get Amritattva by it. So Lord, he is telling some tattva about soul. He told very little, just two aspects: eternal individuality, and then permanence, eternality. Body is ever changing and soul is never changing. That one, two things. And then immediately he gave application of it. But more details about Atma, he will now start explaining from 16th verse onwards. So we are in this section. I earlier had shown this. Just give me a moment. You may remember this section is 11 to 30. Am I right? Yeah. This is a jnana. Lord is giving the knowledge about the body and soul difference. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. What is Atma and what is not Atma? And the difference between that. One should learn to distinguish. And by that, he's establishing the purpose of you should fight, O Arjuna. That's the 11 to 30. This is the section going on. In that 11 to 30, so far we saw 11 to 15, in which Lord Krishna told little about soul, and he immediately told you should do your duties. But more details about soul will come from 16 up till the end of this section. So 16th one explains about the body and soul more analytically. So this analysis is a little technical, but take it as a essential understanding which is necessary. One of our acharyas have told, just like we eat sugarcane, we cut it and then chew it, then the rasa is taken out, is it not? Similarly, in the philosophy also, there is some what do you call kasarat for intelligence. What is happening, how it is flowing, where what is being told. But this understanding will strengthen one's appreciation of philosophy and later appreciation of Lord. In that sense, we should take it. So shloka number 16 tells further about body and soul. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubhayor api drushtontas tvanayor tattvadarshibhi. Prabhuji, you read?
Yes, Prabhu. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existence, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, which is the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both.
So two words are used. See this. In the shloka, it is in the sandhi, it is merged. It is na asataha vidyate bhava, and na abhava vidyate sataha. So there are two words, sat and asat. There are two words, sat and asat. Prabhupada translates as existent and non-existent. See the translation below. You could see that in the book. Sat and asat. Sat means that which exists in all phases of time. Asat means that which does not exist in all phases of time. Usually Sat means spirit and Asat means matter. So that which is spirit, it never has a destruction. It is always enduring. Enduring means something which stays long, and it is eternally staying. And something which is matter, which is asat, which is asat, it does not stay for long. It doesn't have endurance. That is the essential fact which is explained here. And those who are tattva darshi, those who see the tattva, seeing the tattva, it is explained. Those are realized in tattva. They say this. They make this difference. Ubhayaha api drushta antaha. So this difference is seen by those who are realized. They are realized souls, tattvadarshi. So what is the fact which they have seen? The Sat has no endurance, so has no destruction, and Asat has no endurance. That is the fact they are seeing. So Prabhupada here, one should be very careful here in the words translation. Non-existent. So non-existent means actually Prabhupada is using in the sense of temporary. This does not mean it does not exist. So it means it is temporary. If it does not exist, then it becomes another philosophy, which says the world does not exist or matter does not exist. Or in other words, they say matter is false. So here matter is temporary. It is not existent means it is temporary. Sometimes we hear this explanation, it is a dream. We hear like a dream. The example is compared to a dream. But essentially, the Shastras say it is not a dream, it is dream-like. It is swapnavat. The material world is swapnavat. वो स्वप्न की तरह है, वो स्वप्न नहीं है. क्या है इसमें फर्क? What's the difference between them? Swapna means dream. So in dream, we are in a different state of existence, but that is temporary. Correct? We are in a different state of existence, which is temporary. After the sleep breaks, or we wake up, we are in different state. So swapna is one of the state of consciousness. There is swapna, sushupti, jagriti. There is one more called turiya. So swapna is a temporary state of consciousness. When we go to dream, we feel that, okay, now today I am in, say, Vrindavan. So we are dreaming in Vrindavan. Of course, spiritual dreams are true dreams. Let me not take that as an example. Something which we consider, okay, now I am a tiger. Say I am in a dream and I am now a tiger, or I am being chased by a tiger. So after the dream ends, I realize, okay, I am in my home in Gachibowli. I am in my home. So suddenly there is a change. So what was there? It was an experience which was temporary. And now I am in an experience which is another temporary this thing. So it's a change of experience, is it not? So swapna it was temporary. In that sense, swapna is told. But there is one interesting thing in difference between swapna and what is satya or reality. In swapna, whatever we do doesn't yield result. Like say suppose, but when we say material life is like swapna, but we do bhakti, so it is giving us results, is it not? It is giving us result of coming out of material world. So why is, if it is a swapna, then why is it told to do something which will give us results? Why Lord will tell? So that means it is not just false, it is true, it is temporary. It's temporary, but if we do bhakti in this temporary life of human body in this material world, we can attain eternal state of existence. Prahalad Maharaj says this. What is that? Kaumara acharet prajno dharman bhagavatan iha. That ahead. Tadapi adhruvam arthadam. Durlabham manusham janma tadapi adhruvam arthadam. So this manushya janma, it is adhruvam, it is temporary. But if one utilizes it properly, then it will give arthadam, it will be meaningful. Adhruvam arthadam. So something which is temporary, in this dream example, if we do something in dream, it should not give result which is tangible. It's in dream only. Say in dream, I now became worked hard and I became very richest person in Hyderabad or like that, and then I'm gaining riches. But after the dream is broken, I don't have that reality. But in especially when a person practices spiritual life, he has worked hard in spiritual life, served his guru, practiced the angas of bhakti, but after the material life ends, the result of bhakti carries on. Is it not? So in that sense, material life or material world is not a dream. It is not false. It is truth. So essentially what it basically means is material world is temporary. It is not false. So those who say material world is false is that philosophy of Jagat Mithya, which is Mayavad. But Jagat is not Mithya, it is Satya. But it is not eternal, it is temporary. This is essential Vaishnava tenet, Vaishnava philosophical point. Vishwam Satyam, that Madhvacharya says. Srila Prabhupada also many times he makes that point. So when the word non-existent is being used in this shloka, we should carefully note the mood here is not permanent. When we say exist, that means it has a permanent existence. Non-existent means it is temporary. It does not mean it is false. This material world, material body, what we have, what we are experiencing is not false, it is temporary. Yeah. So hope it is clear. Any comments or any questions here? Are we all together?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Fine.
Yes.
Thank you. So I would need your affirmations. Okay. So now, after Lord Krishna tells these two essential things, for spirit soul, there is no destruction. That is, for anything spirit, there is no destruction. And for anything material, there is no permanent existence. So two facts are told. And each of them are explained individually in the next two shlokas. That is text number 17 and text number 18. Let us read that. Any other devotee would like to read translation? Yes, Prabhu. Who is this?
Santosh.
Okay, Santosh. Okay. Take it, Prabhu. So I'm reciting the shloka. Devotees can also recite together. Avinashitu tad vidhi
Vidhi yena
Nasarvam Vinasham Read, Prabhu.
That which pervades the entire body, you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
So among the two things which was explained, which one is it explaining? This explaining?
Sat.
Sat. Very good. Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful. So it is explaining Sat. Na abhava vidyate sataha. The second line, you see that in the earlier shloka, that is being explained in this one full shloka. Na bhavo vidyate sata. So that which pervades the entire body, that is soul. How is it pervading? We will see that. Is indestructible. And how can one ever destroy that indestructible, imperishable soul? Oh, Arjuna, here. Now, carefully note this here. Avinashi. Vinash means destroying. That is Avinasha. That Sat is Avinasha. It is not destructible. And it is pervading all over the body. Yena sarvam idam tatam means it is pervading, not whole creation. Yena sarvam idam tatam means it pervades the body. How does soul pervade the body? Is it present everywhere in the body? Any of you can tell? How is it present everywhere in the body?
Consciousness of it.
Consciousness. Correct. Very good. So soul is present everywhere because of its symptom, that is consciousness. And Prabhupada will explain that. So how is this, what do you say, dimension of the soul? What's the measure of the soul? Where is it present? For that, Lord Srila Prabhupada will give several quotations. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is seated in the body, which is spread all over the body. Now, if something spreads all over, one may think, oh, it doesn't have locating place. It doesn't have a dimension. It doesn't have a form. No. That does not mean. No, anybody can understand what is spread all over is consciousness. Prabhupada saying that. So everyone is conscious of pains, pleasures, many such things. And later Prabhupada says, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and symptom of soul's presence is perceived by consciousness. So everyone's consciousness has a field, that is this body. What happens here, that is the tip of this finger, is experienced by me, because soul is present everywhere because of consciousness. Similarly, everywhere else, there is the state of consciousness. Now, what are the dimensions of the soul? Very famous. We know this in the very beginning sessions of, say, journey of self-discovery, or when we learn about who we are. Balagra Shata Bhagasya. Bala means hair, front part. If you cut it into 100 parts, and each part cut into 100 parts, and that small part is the size of the soul. Bhago Jiva Savigneya Sacha Anantyaya Kalpate. And he gives one more quote also about the size of soul. Told in Upanishads, Shvetashvatar Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad. This is from CC, which is quoted from Upanishad. Same, Keshagra Shata Bhagasya, like that. Now, one interesting thing here. So, right now, science has not developed to be able to see such small dimension. That is 1/10,000, the tip of the hair. But at the same time, we should know that how much ever the advancement is, still one will not be able to see the soul, because basic nature of the soul is it is not matter. How can a matter or an instrument of matter see something spiritual? Yeah. So what is explained here is a estimation of the soul's size or nature. The soul being so small, so subtle, yet it is so influential all around the body. So that is being explained here. One should not literally mean, okay, let me just find something to spot out such small size of an entity, and let me locate where is soul, where is soul. Even if science advances, but yet we will not be able to see the soul. Prabhupada explains below. The influence of such a small spiritual park is spread all over the body as the influence of, see this, active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. We take a small pill, say paracetamol or a cetirizine, whatever medicine, or for that matter, any branch of medicine, allopath or Ayurveda, like that. And that taken, it spreads its effect all around the body, though it is looking so small. So one can imagine the size is not necessarily indicative of its influence. It could be something very small, but its influence could be something very big or very large. Just as a medicine, there is active principle of a medicine. Similarly, soul, it is so subtle, but it can move such a big material body. Later it will come, the same spirit soul of same size is there in a big elephant. It's in a small ant. It is in some invisible amoeba. It is in some different forms of life. How that one small soul is activating, animating different bodies. This is something wonderful, amazing. In fact, Lord Krishna will himself say, Ascharyavat. This is amazing how this principle of soul is functioning, how soul functions. So here Lord Krishna tells little more about it. Srila Prabhupada is explaining where is soul situated. The soul is situated in the region of heart, where there is balance of 5 airs. So Vedas say that there are 5 prana vayus, prana, apana, samana, udana, and vyana, I think. Yeah. And these different airs, they flow in different directions, have different functions. And these airs, they keep the soul, the spirit soul, floating on them at a necessary point. This prana vayu is the connecting link between gross and spiritual, subtle body. And subtle body is the covering around the soul. So this soul along with subtle body is kept at a position where there is equilibrium. Prabhupada marks that in the translation. Here. At the equilibrium where these 5 airs are there. And necessarily speaking, when the airs are purified, then soul is getting purified. How the airs get purified, how the soul is getting purified along with it is a different part. We will not go to that. But essentially what it means is there are different airs, vayus. It is not just the breathing air which is, but it is much deeper, subtler sense. That is vayu, prana vayu. So Srila Prabhupada explains the Hatha Yoga system. Hatha Yoga, wherein one controls one's life air. That is prana yama. That's the stage. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. That's the 4th stage. Yeah. And pratyahara after that. So pranayama is the stage where they control the life airs. They do such kind of process. Kumbhaka, Rechaka, Puraka. Lord Krishna will explain it later. So that Hatha Yoga system is actually focusing on more about pranayama, asana, yama, and niyama. But it doesn't have any understanding about the rest ahead. It doesn't know about dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, about fixing one's mind on Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. So hatha means something which is forceful, and hat karna. So hatha yoga is actually forcing the purification of soul, elevation of soul, just by control of breath. But it is not natural. It is a subset of Ashtanga yoga, hatha yoga. But modern yoga, which Prabhupada says, is not even proper hatha yoga, because they only do pranayama and asana. There is no yama and niyama followed. Yama and niyama means do's and don'ts of leading proper life, which will help one in yogic practice. But people nowadays, they don't do any yama and niyama. They live whatever way they want to live, eat however they want. If such a living is there, and if someone only says he's practicing asana and pranayam, then that cannot be called as yogic siddhi. So that hatha yoga, which was subset itself, could not attain perfection. Then how could modern yogis, so-called yogis, do it? So Prabhupada marks that. Yeah. And then later he also says that the heart, the region of heart, where these 5 airs get balanced, that is the region from where even medical science has understood that's the region of, or the epicenter of energy. Even the oxygen which goes into the blood is from there. Many things. The heart is pumping because the energy is generating, because of the soul is present. So the soul, the energy is coming from the soul. So Prabhupada says, so even medical science does admit that heart is the seat of all energies of the body. And yeah, Lord Prabhupada explains this about spirit soul's size, spirit soul's location, and how the yogic practice of controlling life airs affects soul, like that. So this was about Sat, that is spirit. na bhavo vidyate sataha. Now in the next shloka, Lord will talk about na nasate vidyate bhavo. Nasato vidyate bhavo. Means that which is matter does not have existence or endurance. It means it is temporary. He will speak like that. I'll take this one more shloka and I'll pause for any questions. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirina anashino
अनाशिनो प्रमेयस्य
tasmadyudhyasya bharata.
The material
Yes.
body,
Prabhu, read.
the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore,
Yes.
fight, O descendant of Earth.
So how is this asat? What's the nature of this matter or the body? Antavanta. It has an end. It gets perished. Anta. Uska ek ant hai. Antavanta ime deha. But this sharira's owner, that is shariri, he is not having anta. He is not having an end. He is nitya. He is nityasya. And what else? He is anashina. Anashina means he doesn't get destroyed. And aprameyasya. Aprameyasya. What's the translation of aprameyasya? Please locate.
Immeasurable.
Immeasurable. Just see. Earlier Prabhupada talked about soul's size. Are you able to correlate? 1/10,000 tip of the hair, and here in the shloka itself it's coming immeasurable. So how do we understand this? The earlier explanation was an indication of how subtle the spirit soul is. For that indication or dimension is given. It is so subtle that take a tip of the hair and make 10,000 parts of it. It is subtler than that. It's indicating like that. So that's why here it's told aprameya. You cannot use some vernier calipers or some microscope to find the dimension of the soul. It is aprameya, immeasurable. So, oh, descendant of Bharata family, understanding this, start fighting. See, Lord Krishna doesn't leave the purpose. He doesn't forgo what is the essential need. What's the purpose of telling this philosophy? To make Arjuna do the fighting, the battle. That's his duty. So he is telling it here. So Prabhupada says in the purport very nicely about the material body. Very nice purport. Let's read that. Prabhuji, read this. Santosh Prabhu. Yes.
Purport. The material body is perishable by nature. It may perish immediately, or it may do so after 100 years. It is a question of time only. There is no chance of maintaining it indefinitely. But the spirit soul is so minute that it cannot even be seen by an enemy, to say nothing of being killed.
Yes.
As mentioned in the previous verse, it is so small that no one can have any idea how to measure its dimension. So from both viewpoints, there is no cause of lamentation, because the living entity, as he is, cannot be killed, nor can the material body be saved for any length of time or permanently protected.
You can pause. You can. Thank you. So essentially what Prabhupada is telling, living entity which is spirit soul cannot be killed. And material body, which is material by nature, perishable by nature, cannot be saved. So, oh Arjuna, you are thinking that Bhishma and Drona, I don't want to fight with them and kill them. But in due course, they have to die. They have to lose their material bodies. Better you do your duty. That's the essential instruction here. As such, you are not killing them because they are always, they are spirit souls. And their bodies will anyway get destroyed. So there are 3 levels Lord Krishna talks. I said it came earlier also. Oh Arjuna, If you are thinking that you are going to kill them because they are gross bodies, you should not lament, because they will anyway get destroyed. The gross body anyway gets destroyed. If you are thinking that they are spirit soul, if you understand it like this, then know that soul is never destroyed. Why you have to lament? In both cases, you don't need to lament. And if you think they are subtle bodies, still subtle body doesn't get destroyed as long as soul doesn't get liberated from this material body. So why you have to lament? So Lord Krishna gives from various angles reason for not lamenting. The lamentation comes when there is no proper understanding of identity, of essential truths of life. So that is being explained here.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
Here
Prabhu. Yes.
I have a small doubt. Okay?
Yeah.
So this verse says the body is impermanent. So anyway, Arjuna is not going to kill, it is going to destroy. For the soul, there is no death. So common man can misuse this, saying that I'm killing the body, which is not permanent. I'm not killing the soul. There is a chance of how to justify that.
Very good, very good. Your question is getting answered in next purport. Prabhupada himself tells about it. In fact, our acharyas have told it. Let's read next purport and then we will discuss more. So next shloka says, Ya enam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhav tam vidani nayam hanyate. Yes,
neither he who thinks the living entity, the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is the slain.
Slain. So slay means to kill. To slay means to kill. Essentially, the word meaning slaying means to killing. So when we say slayer, means, oh, he is doing hatya, hanyate. The word used is, you see in the shloka, hanti. Hanti means one, hantaka, we say, no? One who kills other person, or slayer. Or someone is getting killed, he is hanta. Hanyate, hanti. Two words are used. Hanyate means killed. So neither Bhishma or Drona are killed, and nor you are the killer. Essentially, Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna this point. Now, Prabhupada takes this point and he brings it just as Santosh Prabhu was making this, asking this question. This does not support killing of animals, or for that matter, killing of another living being for any other purpose. So, see, there are what is being explained here? What is the context of this discussion? We should know clearly. The context is there are discharge of duties which everyone has to do, and while doing such duties, some pains get inflicted to oneself and to others. One should tolerate and perform duties. Here in Arjuna's case, the duty was fighting, and in his fighting duty, he has to kill his relatives, which is going to give pain to them and himself. He has to tolerate and fight. The context is, in the inevitable discharge of duty, whatever actions happen, they will happen. You cannot avoid them. You are not the cause of it. You have to just perform the duty. So now, if we take this to other extent, okay, now when we say one may take benefit of this and kill a person and show, just see in Bhagavad Gita, this is told that I am not the killer, nor that person is being killed. But there is a desire involved. There is a desire involved. Here it is a duty which one has to do. And there is a desire which is independent of the duty. So we have to clearly make this difference. When we are performing any action, there are 5 components of action. Bhagavad Gita talks about it later. So the jiva is desiring. He is desiring. That is one of the function, one of the component of action. Then there is senses with which one acts. Then there is place of action. There are so many like this. Then essentially there is Paramatma also. So when one's desire is in following duty, then he is not held responsible for the things which will happen in performance of duty. But if one's desire is not aligned with the duty, but it is something on its own, something selfish, then he is held heavily responsible for whatever happens in that action. Even one's performance of duty will also give reactions, but it will protect one because it is given by Supreme Lord. The duty is given by Supreme Lord. Now, no one is telling to kill animals. Now, neither the Shastra is telling. Prabhupada quotes here one Shastra. You see here, Vedic injunction is. Let's read this here. Yes, Prabhu. From here, Santosh Prabhu, can you read?
Yes. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Ma himshaya sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and
not whimsically. This is essential to know. So what is ordained by Lord is duty. But if we do something which is not the duty, then we will be heavily put into reactions. That is being explained. I'll just show you one slide I had taken from one of the devotee study guides and just show it. This actually comes much more vividly later. This, are you able to see this, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
See here, this actually comes in one more purport later. At least let's read some part of this. So, does the immortality of soul recommend violence? Very important objection. People may say, oh, this means we can kill anyone, everyone. So no, that's not the case, because Vedas, they also say that one should not commit himsa on other jivas. There is a reference for it. The same Vedas which say soul is eternal, they also say one at the same time one should not inflict himsa on the other jivas. So when does we use violence? It is, Prabhupada mentions here, killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the laws of state as well as law of the Lord. At the same time, violence, it has a utility when it is in the authority of Shastras. Like say now Arjuna is fighting, that is his duty. When he's following the duty, there is no reaction. He may kill someone, he may harm someone's bodies. At the same time, he is not inflicted with reaction like this. He doesn't get papa. Now, who decides the utility? That's an essential thing. So, one who knows properly the injunctions of Shastras and how to apply them, he can know this proper usage of violence. Okay, and there is an example coming. I will go to these examples in the future purport in 21st shloka. It will come there. We will read that time there. There is an example of justice or a judge who gives judgment. Kill this person, put into prison. Or he sends someone, he frees someone. He orders for hanging a person or punishing someone to life sentence or like that. So he is giving an order. But he's awarding, but he is not inflicted with any reaction. He is just giving the judgments which is according to the laws of state. Is it not? That says following the duty. Similarly, a king sometimes has to give orders to kill a person if he is a criminal. The Shastras say if one doesn't punish like that, then that person who has committed a crime will undergo greater suffering in future. So for that person's betterment, the king has to do it. He cannot say, oh, now I have to give him some death sentence or punishment It will be painful for him. But that will be an ignorance, because one will not know what will be the future suffering, like that. So that is an important understanding one should know. So this will come later. I will again show this slide, and that time we will talk about it. Is this clear, Santosh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
Yeah. Prabhuji, I was just wondering on this context that dharma or duty is absolute, right? That is as per the Vedic knowledge or system. It's not relative, right? One cannot define, hey, as per me, this is what it is. So I'm just wondering, and we also talked about, right, okay, this is as per the law defined by the state. So if we take the example, right, before independence, our land was ruled by Britishers, right? They came here and they make their own laws, right? And they also have a justice system, right? And we call it, right, freedom fighter, and they prosecute them and they give judgment, right? And our freedom fighter basically kill Britishers, right, during the freedom struggle. So I'm just wondering, how should we take that, right? If it is absolute, right? I'm not sure whether it's relevant here, but one can say, right, they are breaking the law of the state, and judge is giving them punishment, right? So how should we look this, Prabhuji?
Good, nice question, Prabhuji. So you're telling that sometimes the dharmas, which essentially are followed in current governments, are inflicting pains to someone while they're honoring someone else. So there is duality in this. So how do we see this? How do we understand it? If dharma is absolute, how do we see such kind of abiding by laws of state or like? Is that the question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, because they can say, right, this is the state law of a state, right? But that may not be true, right? Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. So there is discussion coming about swadharma little later. What it means is there are two kinds of dharma. I told about it little earlier also. We being spirit soul have a dharma of that identity, spirit soul. Okay, that is called paradharma. We discussed this in Kula Dharma discussion. There is paradharma, which is the dharma or duty of our identity as spirit soul, paradharma. And there is aparadharma, that is because we are right now in a material body, which is not permanent. At the same time, we are in the material body. We have to follow the dharma of being in the material body. That means we are in a particular family, in a particular gender, in a particular state or country or like that. So there is dharma, there is duty towards them. Now, we should know that aparadharma is very complex to discern because two people's aparadharma may come into clash. Aparadharmas may come into collision. That's why one has to rise to paradharma. Now here what I am talking is aparadharma, which is according to Vedic regulations. We are not talking here about some modern self-invented or whimsical or self-discovered laws, what is convenient for them, and not obeying some Vedic injunctions also. No, not like that. But in a Vedic system itself, where the duties are followed according to Vedic injunctions, there are situations of conflicts in aparadharma. Just for example, here Arjuna is a warrior. He has a dharma of being a Kshatriya. And he is belonging to a family of Kurus. And he has a dharma of being in that family. Is it not? So these two dharmas are in conflict here. If you see materially, if you see it's in aparadharma only. Sometimes that conflict comes. So it is natural that there is conflicts among different dharmas in material identities. In material world, that is always there. There are many situations of that, like, but if we consider someone or some society which is not following Vedic injunctions, surely there will be many more conflicts. And sometimes it is convenient for some and it is harmful for other. Just like you gave the example, somebody may perceive this person as a perpetrator and other person may perceive this person as a patriot. Say a person who is sitting in a neighboring country, say Pakistan or something, and one who comes out and fights, he is considered as a great hero of the country, but the other country feels he's a threat, he's a intruder, he's a terrorist. So they may kill. So like this, there is difference in perceptions, because they are related to the material world, being in the material body, things related to the body. So there are conflicts in such understandings. Is that clear, Prabhuji? That's a very natural conflict.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I think that is helpful, because sometimes it's bewildering, right? When we look into these perspective on a material ground, right? It creates confusion. Yeah, it helpful, right? Thank you, Prabhuji.
Correct. So yeah, that's always there. That's why we surely we should try to connect it to first make a step to connect it to Vedic system. Are my duties according to Vedas, according to Shastras? Especially for Vaishnavas, is it according to Bhagavatam or my guru's orders? That's more practically to see. So we should at least come to align like that, and take opinions of senior Vaishnavas in our major decisions in such conflicts of dharmas. Take suggestions and advices, guidance of Vaishnavas, and take further ahead, in that sense. So with that in view, we are already coming to the end of time today, 8 p.m. We will meet again on Friday. Okay, Prabhuji? So today we talked about from 12th verse up till 19th. We are coming to 20. These are little technical verses, so we will go little slow. After that, thematically we will take it little faster. So what we discussed essentially today is that the body is always changing, spirit is never changing. This fact Lord Krishna explained, and he gave an application of this fact. What was the application Lord Krishna gave? Knowing this fact, what you should do, Arjuna? What was the essential instruction?
Tolerate.
Tolerate and fight.
Yes,
Tolerate and fight. Yeah, that is something very important. When we say a philosophical point, let's know what is the original context and use of that. So Lord Krishna told it to inspire Arjuna to do his duty of fighting, and he told tolerate any other things which come in the due course, and he explained what you will get by tolerating. Then later he started explaining two facts, that is spirit, which is sat, never has destruction. Na bhavo vidyate sataha. And that which is not spirit, asat, that is matter, it doesn't have endurance or longer existence. Na sato vidyate bhavo. These two things were explained in one shloka later. So that we saw. And 19th one we saw, where one should not think that in the discharge of one's duties, he is the doer, or or things are getting done on him. So neither he is subject nor he is object of action. He is just a carrier of action as an instrument. He is doing his duty. So that has to be very clear. Wherein we discussed about violence, sometimes wrongly justified on this philosophy of soul's immortality. That's wrong. That also we saw. So going ahead, we will see more about this Sankhya discussion. We'll try to complete it in the next class as much as possible. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions before we end?
One small question, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
One time we said like the soul is not measurable. At another place we were saying that like it is a tip of 1/10 or 10,000 of a hair.
Correct.
So both are contradicting, no? Even that is kind of measurable.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we discussed about it. Anyone would like to share? We discussed about, so when soul's size is being told, what does it mean?
instruments used for measuring matter cannot be used to measure something spiritual.
Something
So
spiritual.
even though it is said that it is a tip of the hair and 10,000 of a tip of the hair, there is no instrument which can measure that, first of all, because that is matter and this is spirit.
Correct. Very good. So essential nature of matter in spirit is different. So one cannot measure. And secondly, why is there such a explanation given? That is to make a point that how subtle is soul and how influential is soul. It is so subtle that in your estimation, it is, if you take a tip of a hair and divide it into 10,000 parts, such small, every part, it is so subtle, it is so small. Actually, this is explained in Nyaya as Shakha Chandra Nyaya. Means something which is not understandable to us is explained through examples. Like a mother wants to show where is Chandra on the sky, where is moon on the sky. What she will do? Hey beta, Papu, you see here, there's a tree. See there is a branch. See there at the end of the branch, there is a fruit. And in the corner, you see white, round color thing. That is Chandra. That is Shakha Chandra Nyaya. Means you are taking the child vision towards Chandra through Shakha of a tree. So similarly, spiritual truths are explained like this. These are figurative explanations. These should not be taken as, okay, let me now find a advancement in science to get to such a precise measure and let me find soul. No, it's not like that. It is to give us an indication of how subtle is spirit soul.
Okay, we should not be taking as it is, like, okay, 10,000 of hate if it said, okay, no.
Yeah. Because Lord Krishna himself says later, as you rightly pointed, immeasurable, aprameya. That's
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I don't know whether my question is relevant or not. Prabhuji, the persons who are doing Ashtanga Yoga and wants to get some siddhis, they are giving pain to their body, right, Prabhuji? So whether it is authorized by law or how we can see that, Prabhuji?
Yeah. So Ashtanga Yoga has yama, niyama, and there is pratyahara, which is a little painful.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So why they are doing, whether it is authorized or it is accepted by the law of God? What is that?
Yeah. So there is this process of Ashtanga Yoga, which is based on Shastras. It is explained by one of the disciples of Vyasa, who expounds this philosophy of yoga. And it is a process. It is a process to realize Lord Vishnu. Prabhupada says it's a mechanical process because at first one has to understand that one is not this matter. One has to realize it, and one has to focus one's concentration, meditation on Supreme Lord, and then realize the Sat aspect, the spirit aspect. So this is a process. It is not something whimsical. There is a science of it, Ashtanga Yoga. And those who follow it, Lord himself describes that it is very painful. In the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says it. Klesho adhikataras tesham avyaktasakta chetasam. It is for impersonalists. At the same time, there it is also explained it is for Ashtanga yogis also. There is so much difficulty. There is so much of pain in this process. They are actually inflicting so much of pain to themselves, and there is, because the attachment has to go. That's why that pain makes them, forces them to get rid of that attachment. That's why that voluntary acceptance of suffering is there. But it is essentially for that purpose. And that purpose is realized in many ways in other yoga paths. Like Bhakti Yoga realizes it in different manner. Karma Yoga realizes it in different manner. We will see that in the yoga ladder. Those who are very attached to body, who for them, it is told this process, Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, like that. It's a mechanical process. And real focus of Lord starts from dharana in that. Till dharana, the first 5 steps are telling you are not the body. Get relieved from bodily attachments. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar. But later it starts focusing on Supreme Lord beyond this world, like that. So it's a science which has a purpose, Mataji. But Prabhupada says it's not effective in this age and day.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, is there a mention about Kriya Yoga somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita? Because it's quite popular, and we do get questions from a lot of people who practice this kind of yoga called Kriya Yoga. I mean, in fact, if you know Paramahamsa Yogananda, he had widely, established this process of yoga.
Okay. I have not heard about this yoga, Mataji, in Gita or like that. But surely Prabhupada just now talked about Hatha Yoga, you see. Hatha Yoga, wherein the first 4 aspects of Ashtanga picked up and practiced. But that's a subset of Ashtanga Yoga, and it is not complete. It is not taking one to spiritual realization. It is something very forceful. Hatha, that's the word which is used, Hatha Yoga. What does Kriya Yoga has in its elements? I don't know much about it.
What I've heard is just an extension of Raja Yoga. So yeah. So it's again, I mean, it properly follows the Ashtanga Yoga, but then quite popular among all the people who actually follow yoga in general.
Yeah. So any science has to be followed in entirety to realize the purpose. So in that sense, we can explain that this science of yoga, which is given in Vedas, has 8 limbs, Ashtanga. That's Ashtanga Yoga. And its purpose is to realize one's position or relationship with Lord Vishnu. That's very, very clear. Patanjali says in the very beginning about it in the Yoga Sutras. And he controls mind so that he can fix it on Supreme Lord. So one can establish the purpose and connect it to Bhakti Yoga also. In that sense, we can have a conversation with such kind of practitioners and take it further, discuss further like that. So that's my understanding, Mataji. I don't know much about Kriya Yoga.
No problem. Thank you for the insights.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Mataji. We will meet in next Friday session.
Yes.
6:30 p.m. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Dandavat pranam.